right, and welcome everyone again to another episode of Reboot Review.
As always, I'm Drew.
And I'm Matt, and we are continuing on our list of reboots to do in the 2021 Halloween season. And today, boy oh boy, we got a horror film, I guess. I mean, why don't you go ahead and take the lead and talk about what we're doing today, Drew?
Today we're doing French horror film, French extremism film called Martyrs. And then there's it came out in 2008, and then there is an American reboot in 2015. It's called Martyrs as well, but it's different.
And before we kind of start, you say that it's extremism.
It's a subgenre.
Okay. Well, I would call this on a certain level like torture porn. And for that reason, I don't think we're going to be doing a video of our review this week, just because, one, I don't really want to go through that footage again of both movies, and two, I don't even think that it would be worth putting up on YouTube. So this is just going to be an audio-only review. But with that being said, don't let that detract you from any kind of interest of wanting to watch this film or not. I just don't want to be depressed while editing this episode.
Well, that's the thing is, yeah, I mean, I guess you call it torture porn, and we can kind of talk about that.
Well, actually, Wikipedia calls it torture porn, so...
I mean, I guess what do we want to do? We want to talk about...
Well, let's go through it kind of beat by beat, all right?
Okay, just go ahead and do a plot breakdown.
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, because that's going to be one of the more interesting things to talk about is how the plot differs in the reboot.
All right, so let's start with the 2008 Martyrs, which is written and directed, and my apologies if I get this wrong, Pascal Lagier.
We'll put the name up on the screen.
Yeah, whatever.
Do you want to talk about how this is your first time seeing this movie? Then it's still kind of like probably processing in your headspace.
Well, this isn't my first time seeing a movie that has very graphic violence and very like depressing visual examples of abuse on such an extreme level. I mean, I've seen other foreign movies like this before, but yeah, I mean, not in a while have I watched one. and jumping into this for my first time, there's definitely things to respect about it from a filmmaking standpoint and from a performance standpoint. And I guess we're doing this on the Reboot Review because it is, like you said, a horror movie, and it does make you feel bad. I would more so like to do horror movies that make you feel good or make you laugh, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but this is just as much as a massacre, but it is not as fun as Leatherface, I can tell you that. So overall, I appreciated the movie and I respected it, and I thought all the people involved did a really good job, but I would only recommend this movie on that front because it's definitely not like
enjoyable.
Well, it's just you don't feel good. So if you're going to watch it, you're watching it just to see an example of what people are able to do, even if that story is really grotesque and dark. And yes, there's a justification for why it's so grotesque and dark, because they are trying to create martyrs, and maybe we should go into that really quick. Like, what is a martyr, Drew?
Well, that's the thing is there's the martyr in the religious connotation, and then there's the martyr in the, like, I guess, literal or original sense that they reveal at the end.
What's the basic bottom line of what a martyr is? It just like...
In a religious context, and like in an everyday context, it's someone who dies for a belief.
Well, okay.
Or makes a sacrifice for a belief.
But that's not what I'm talking about. Like,
what you're talking about is the definition that we get in the movie.
The movie gives us a definition of a martyr, saying that it's somebody who experiences so much pain and torture that they're almost able to die and like leave their body but still be conscious here on Earth. So because of that, they're able to see what is happening in the afterlife.
And it's literally defined at the end of the movie. It's witness. It's just one word.
Okay. So that's what we're doing across the board. We're trying to hurt people so bad that they're able to gain or access a viewpoint of what's going to happen in the afterlife. Like they're almost able to see, and I'm doing air quotes here, heaven.
And then, they would relay that information to the cult that is in charge of this. And this is just a very broad, like, this is the movie very deconstructed because this is there's a lot happening and a lot being revealed very slowly over the course of the movie, because we haven't even touched on the characters yet. We're just talking about like the broad,
but the movie's
the motivation
Martyrs.
Of the antagonist.
Yeah, but it's also called Martyrs, so we got to kind of figure out what is a martyr first and foremost. And it's just somebody who's able like to get access to like seeing what happens after we die. And even more so than that, once we never really find out what happens after we die, but we know that whatever the martyrs tell the people that are in the room with them what happens, they end up like blowing their brains out.
That happens in both.
Happens in both movies. But I get what the movie's trying to do. I think that it's respectable. But yeah, it wasn't a fun watch.
You say it's respectable, but you called it torture porn.
Well, once again, I didn't call it that. Wikipedia called it that.
Mm-hmm.
And on a certain level, like, it is like there's nothing but torture going on for the whole third act of the first Martyrs. And it kind of sucked because when we meet our main character Lucy, and we meet her in 1971, and she's running out of the building that, you know, was torturing her.
She escaped.
She escapes. We catch up with her 15 years later. I like the fact that they were only kind of giving us little flashbacks of what happened, but not kind of showing us everything, because I don't want to see a little girl get tortured.
And then spoiler alert, it's the whole second half of the movie.
It's the whole third act of the movie, if you think about it, because I would say Act 1 is Lucy as a kid, and then also meeting Anna as a kid, and watching them in the orphanage home, and
then the initial, like, the gun,
the inciting incidents. And then we cut to 15 years later, and there we just meet like a generic family, and there's these two siblings. There's a husband, a wife, and then two siblings that are very close with each other, maybe because this is what, in France, so it's
physically close.
They're touching each other a lot, they're joking a lot. I think the sister has like a picture of her brother in her bedroom.
That's the most damning thing, is when you don't forget about the characters, but later on you find out that the sister has like pictures of her brother in her room.
So it just looks like a normal family, and once again, I'm doing normal with air quotes, especially when it comes to the brother and sister. But then there's like a ding dong at the door opens, and Lucy's there with a shotgun, and she blasts the dad in, and then she continues to murder the whole family. And like I said, like, scenes like that, especially if you've never seen this before, it's very shocking, and it's like, oh wow, what's going on? We reveal that this is going to be the family that supposedly tortured Lucy all those years when she was a child. And I say that's kind of Act 1 because Act 1 kind of ends after she calls Anna, who's also now grown up, and then Anna's going to come over to the house and kind of help her clean up like the mess, right? So then Act 2 is really just like Anna.
Well, it's the two of them.
Well, it's the two of them, but it's mostly Anna trying to figure out if she believes Lucy that these are the people, while at the same time trying to clean up her mess and bury the bodies and everything. And then for me, Act 3 kicks off after Lucy kills herself, and then the bad people come in, and then they begin to, or maybe that's just the second part of Act 2.
That is the second. That's the halfway point.
So then is Act 3 then when she's like basically about to be martyred?
Act 3, yeah. Act 3 is when she starts, I believe. If we want
we're talking about Anna here, because after Act 2 ends, Lucy kills herself, in the middle of Act 2, Lucy kills herself. The people who are part of this organization, the cultists, I guess, they show up, they question Anna, and then they proceed to like drug her, chain her to a chair, and essentially do everything to her that they did to Lucy. And, you know, the flip in this, like the front half of Act 2 is Anna, like I said, not being sure if she believes Lucy or not, and then until she finds like a cellar, which is hidden behind a cabinet in the wall, and then you go down to like a really deep basement, and that's where she finds the torture room.
The magic happens.
That's where the magic happens.
But you think about it, and this is a very small thing that I just wanted to bring up, is Anna the only one that like they actually explain everything to? Like, this is why you're here? Or do they explain that to like everyone?
No, they explain it to her. But what's weird about it is they make it sound like they only do this to little girls, and that Anna's gonna maybe be the first adult woman they do this to. But even that other adult woman that Anna saves or tries to save, we don't really know when that woman was taken, whether she was taken when she was a child, or
I think children are just easier to abduct.
I thought that there had something to do with like the innocence of like a child being able to get there kind of faster, because like with their imagination, I don't know. Either way, our main bad woman whatever, our main bad woman who's in the babushka, Mademoiselle, she comes down and she explains to Anna what's going on,
and the audience
what's going on, and she's got pictures of a bunch of different people throughout history that have been tortured, and they're looking up at the ceiling, and she's like, you know, look at the eyes, look at the eyes.
I mean, yep, that's pretty much it. That's what because I kind of want to get references established. This is the first time you've seen either movie. I had seen the original 7-8 years ago, and I've seen it probably like 10 or 20 times since then. There's a lot that I like about it, and I think there's a lot that we can talk about what it does successful as a horror movie.
Go for it.
You say like the shocking moment is I just wanted to circle back around to this, when she comes in with the shotgun.
It's a very exciting, I mean, it is a shocking moment. It's like, oh wow, so this is what
you made it seem like the shocking moment, the thing that like wraps you in. Like
at first it is, because I mean the movie has a lot of things that kind of keep bringing you in and keep you intrigued, but that's like the kicking off point, I think.
The kicking off point for me was it was still during the flashback. It was when they actually show the monster for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like it wasn't it was perfect. It wasn't a jump scare. It wasn't a part of it. It was the whole thing. They held on it and they were just using like shadow and like frame composition. Like that's what I like about this horror movie, is that it's not really shot like a horror movie. It's shot like a drama almost.
Yeah.
But that was like really what got me first. I remember, because every time I see it, it still like holds up. That shot does. Like that's really what got me into the movie for the first time. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna watch this whole thing, because I was really like on the fence about, like, the first time I watched it, I was really on the fence. I was really doubtful.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because this whole monster that they present to us, which is basically just a part of your subconscious, that's like,
spoiler alert.
Yes, another one. This is all going to be a spoiler alert. Yeah. But the monster that Lucy sees, and also the monster that the other torture victim that Anna tries to save later sees or experiences, are just like figments of their imagination, like parts of their subconscious that are just like,
it's trauma.
Yeah, that have been created through trauma, that are forcing them to like kill themselves or whatever. But what's weird about it is, when Mademoiselle is explaining those monsters to Anna, she's making it sound like they're torturing these women to get them to experience creating fake things through trauma, whether it be a monster or whether it be, like, I think with the other woman, she imagined there was like cockroaches or spiders all over her, so she's like trying to scrape them off on the wall or whatever.
Yeah.
But then when Anna gets tortured a bunch, the voice that she experiences is Lucy, and it's a calming voice to get her to kind of let go completely. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was weird having the monsters in the movie, because I don't feel like the monsters ever paid off. Because if you think about it, it's like 3 beats. We get Lucy's monster, we get the tortured woman's subconscious trauma thing,
which is just like a doubling down.
Yeah, doubling down. And then the 3rd beat of it is Anna thinking that she hears Lucy. Now, that's to bring her comfort.
There is one thing, and I think it was very quickly mentioned, that the reason that these women saw the monsters was because they were failed martyrs. The reason that Anna didn't see anything was because she was successfully martyred.
Okay.
That's what I think. I've only seen the movie 10 times, so I'm not sure.
For me, it kind of felt, when we got to the end of the movie and I looked back at the monsters, like I understood why Lucy had hers, because when she was a child, she could have saved somebody else, and she didn't. And that guilt kind of led to her monster, on top of all the trauma that she experienced. But it just felt like we needed something scary in the movie on the front half of it. By the time we finished the movie, I didn't really feel like the monster was necessary. It was a good character thing, but it didn't serve anything to the plot besides killing Lucy before the people show up. And it's interesting because I think in the American version, they didn't want to kill the Lucy character, because they don't. But I mean, that's another kind of polarizing moment when we get to like end of Act 2 or middle of Act 2. I'm sorry, I keep saying that. And she kills herself, and you're like, oh, I thought the movie was over. Yeah. And it's like, nope, we've only just begun.
Well, that's another interesting thing I like about it, is there's a huge like radical shift in tone, and it's almost at exactly the halfway point. Yeah. And it's a normal, like you said, kind of monster movie, where we have the monster, which is manifested by the protagonist herself as like a form of trauma. I would have been more critical, like you, that the monster didn't have a deeper impact on the plot if it wasn't such a good design and didn't pay off in like so many other ways. Because this is just one of my favorite monsters in horror movies in general, and that's a big reason why I consider it a successful horror movie. Is the creature design.
And we can just like say, like, you know, when I say I respect the movie, like the special effects and the practical effects across the board are like phenomenal. Like it's just as grotesque as like watching like John Carpenter's The Thing on some level. But yeah, the monster that Lucy imagines, yeah, like the design on that is really creepy, and it's also the way he films it too.
Well, and I was gonna say the way the actress moves, like, you know, however much of that is a direction, how much was improv, whatever. But like,
and the audio too, like the audio design for the monster.
It's like everything. Really creepy. It's not just like one gimmick and then like everything is around to service that. It's just successfully shot. Every aspect of filmmaking is put into making this monster scary. It's not just one idea that we're running with. No. But then, yeah, like you said, the second half is we get to see exactly what you were so happy that we were skipping in the flashbacks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, their way of like torturing Anna is very kind of just like feed her mush and then punch her in the face.
Yep.
It's just a lot of that.
Simple and effective, because everyone else was just so creative. I mean, I guess you look in the past, Anna was getting. That's the thing, is they don't torture the protagonists in creative ways. They just, when Lucy's a child, she just gets beaten, and then when Anna's an adult and in there, she just gets beaten. Yeah. The other girls, the one who becomes the monster and the one that Anna finds, get it so much worse.
But that's why I call it torture porn, because on a certain level, like all of Act 3 is just watching a woman just get punched in the face a bunch and just watching her like literally just get tortured.
Yeah.
And he does it so repetitively because he almost wants you to feel, the director, he wants you to feel like as sick of this as she is. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's so repetitive.
Well, is torture porn by definition something that's meant to be enjoyed? Because that's the reason the porn part is in the definition.
I mean, I bet people that watch this movie, I mean, I understand like when you watch this movie, you're also watching from a filmmaking standpoint, but I could totally see people watching this movie just because of the torture element to it. I mean, that's the reason why there is a huge, genre of like torture type movies.
But this is shot differently.
Yeah, I mean, it's shot more respectfully.
It's also shot more like you said, like more like depressingly. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's what I like about it, is that it's not pulling any punches. It's showing the situation as it would play out realistically if this cult were a real thing, but it's not at the same time, it's not, I'm going to say, exploiting the situation, but I think what I mean is a little bit more finesse than that, but I'll just use that as like a general term.
But they are exploiting it, and that's the reason why.
Like, how though?
Just by showing you it. And I'm only saying that comparatively to the American version, where they don't show you anything, and they try to insinuate that there's like a lot of bad stuff going on, but it's filmed in such a way where you don't really feel for the characters, you don't really feel for the torture that they're having. I mean, when we meet Lucy, even 15 years later, like, she is still a wreck. Like, her lips are all chapped, she's got scars all over her body, her eyes are in a constant state of just like about to cry. Like, she looks like a post-traumatic victim, whereas in the reboot, like, they just look like girls. Mm-hmm. They just look like normal women.
We can get into the reboot,
but I'm saying that's the difference of it. Like, in the American version, they try to just like give you characters and say they're being tortured, whereas in the French version, they're showing you the torture.
Yeah,
and I think that's the reason why it's still, even if it's done well, it's still like exploiting it. And I'm not saying that in a negative context, but that's clearly what it is. That's why they call it torture porn.
I guess that's why it would be defined as that, yeah. But it, like I said, it's eliciting a different emotional reaction. Sure. And it's interesting because, like, there's two movies I like comparing this to. The first one is Hostel, which is, like, I think my go-to, like, definition of torture porn. Mm-hmm. Because it's, like, the big reason is because it's the American staple in torture porn. So it's like when they're shooting it in like what I would consider a very exploitative way, where it's meant to just be grotesque.
Yeah.
And then this is shot, it's almost like the same situation where, or like it's just a slightly different circumstance between the cultist and the whoever's running the hostels in, the Eli Roth movie. Mm-hmm. But the way it's portrayed and the way you end up leaving the movie is just so, like, insanely different.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that like it's weird to consider both of them torture porn when the emotional response is so different.
Well, I would say in the French version, they much more lean into the themes of the movie, whereas in the American version, they kind of lean into like ideas, but they don't really fulfill those ideas.
You're talking about the reboot?
Yeah, the reboot. So in the French version, yeah, they like lean into those themes, and it's very nihilistic. And when they end the movie after Madame Moselle finds out what Anna told her about the afterlife, she just goes like, do you think she's like talking through the door to like another cultist, and she's like, do you think you know what's going to happen after you die or something? And he's like, I think so. And she's like, keep doubting. And then she blows her brains out. So it ends still on this like theme of what was the point of all that?
Yeah.
Whereas in the American version, it's like Lucy tells Anna, like, she whispers in her ear what she saw, and then like the American Mademoiselle is like, what'd she say? And then the priest is like, I heard it, and then he pulls out a gun and kills himself.
Yeah.
And it's like when they do it in the American version, it's like they weren't even leaning into that theme a lot. Like, they had an idea about what being a martyr was, but then they just kind of wrap it up really quick, and they focus more on like the friendship between the two girls. But it's just like, ugh. So yeah, it works better in the 2008 version, obviously, because he's leaning into the right things, and he's not like just relying on the torture porn of it. He's using the torture to kind of double down on his theme and his idea, I guess. Yeah, and I guess when they were gonna do this American version, because the original director Pascal, he was negotiating the rights, like you said, to be remade in the United States, and it was going to be directed originally by Daniel Stamm, who was the director of The Last Exorcism. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. And he was going to try to keep the tone and the theme of the 2008 version, but he was going to focus more on like the friendship between the two women, because basically he wanted to like end the movie on hope instead of like just like nihilistic tone, instead of just like a real negative tone. And he's quoted saying like, yeah, I want to end it on like a more upbeat note, so you don't want to like shoot yourself when it's over, like with the original. But he never ended up making the movie because they weren't going to give him any money, and then that's where we got the Getz brothers to do it instead. And I think they kept a lot of the things from the original script, and by original I mean the rebooted script, as far as like the friendship and like Anna trying to save Lucy and Lucy not dying in Act 2.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to go ahead and address the changes directly?
Well, we will, but I think it's interesting how even in the American version they were gonna still try to keep elements to the original version, but they didn't get any money, and and then he just kind of left, and he didn't want to do it anymore. So when these Getz brothers step in, it's like, well, what's their motivation now for making the movie? And
get it done.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, there's really no reason for this reboot to exist.
And that's the thing too, is like it's clear that there was no reason, because this was not advertised at all. It was kind of like made in. I don't know if it was made in secret or if no one cared. But there's kind of like this element of just like no one was paying attention to it for one reason or another when it was being made, and it just kind of got dropped. I remember like someone texted me when I was in college, just like, hey, that movie got remade, and I had been following it for a little bit, but then I dropped it because there was no news being reported. And I was like, oh God, it's been released? Well, I have to like find it and see how bad it is.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I watched it. Yeah.
Well, it's genuinely shocking that this movie has been rebooted. And the whole purpose of this podcast is usually that there's an original film that's successful, and then they try to reboot it for financial gain. But what's different about this movie Martyrs is that the original isn't even a box office hit. It's got a 2 million euro budget, and it only made 1 million euro at the box office. Now, it does have a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, and maybe it is a big like kind of cult hit, but it's by no means like a financially successful original film. So when they reboot this in America, they give it a $1 million budget, and I believe they only make like a little over $300,000 at the box office. So it's like, why did you even want the rights to this movie? Why did you even want to reboot it? And just, I guess, why?
I feel it seems like almost one of those situations where if they didn't make it, they were like the rights would lapse and they would lose them.
Yeah, but
then I don't know why they would want to hold on to those rights.
Why would they want to even tell the story?
Exactly.
It's very confusing. And like, if the whole point of the original was to tell a story to make you feel a certain way, it's like, okay, that's art, I get it. But in the American version, like I said, the themes are not there, and we're really just kind of, it was almost like we were watching like a soap opera, like a daytime soap opera that just had really weird storylines going through, and the acting was really bad, like across the board. And it's not even scary.
Yeah,
it's just like boring. And it's funny because that original director says he doesn't want you to want to shoot yourself at the end of the movie like you would with the original, but I wanted to shoot myself at the end of the remake.
Yeah, the original makes me feel like, it actively makes me feel bad, but I would still rather watch it than this reboot.
Yeah,
because this reboot just makes me feel nothing.
Yeah,
there is, just to kind of give a broad overview, I guess we can just kind of like start real quick breaking it down, at least the differences.
Yeah,
you get like, there's no build up into the shotgun family or whatever you want to call it. We get into it after like 30 seconds of dialogue.
Yeah,
she's in there blowing people away, and then we burn through like all of the monster build up That's a big part of the first act.
Well, even before that, if we can just go to talking about when they're kids, right? Like in the
I feel like that
original,
was essentially identical.
it was identical, but the difference was in the original, like that kid looks bad. Like as
Oh
far as
yeah.
like she looks like she's been tortured. In the remake or the reboot, it's just like a little girl in like padded
No
chains.
one looks. Yeah, that's the thing that gets
Yeah.
me too. Is the paint? The chains are even padded.
Yeah.
It's not even like it's like they can't torture her.
Well, it's just they're not trying. They want to disturb you, but they don't want to disturb
I
you.
feel like they just don't want to disturb me at all.
They don't.
I
But
don't know because that's the thing is like this movie's a walking contradiction where it's
yeah.
like you want to lean into. I think I bumped the mic. You want to lean into the emotion of it because that's what was successful about it. There's not a lot that's successful about it other than it like the original I want to like give props for because it was a very well done horror movie, but that doesn't mean that it was like exceptional by any means. It was like very solidly above
Well,
average.
like you said,
So the thing
it's
the
a well
only thing
drama. It's a good drama too.
exactly, and it's got it, well that's the thing is yeah, it's executed very well from like most movie making standards, but then the thing that makes it exceptional is the tone and the feeling it leaves you with. When you remove that and then you also just kind of I guess on accident or unintentionally don't make it a competent all-around movie because the budget's so low and you can't get the resources you need to properly do an idea like this for the reboot, like there really is no point in making it. It's like it becomes like a manifested contradiction.
Well, let's look at what they tried to do in this reboot, right? So they wanted to focus more on the relationship between Lucy and Anna.
Which they do
Which
technically.
they kind of do, but that's why I'm going back to this whole kind of opening with the kids, right?
Okay,
So
sure.
outside of the torture stuff, where the two kids look completely different, it's really good in the original how when we meet Anna, she's like
Anna.
in Anna.
It's Anna in the original, and then it's Anna
Right.
in the reboot.
What's really interesting is when we meet Anna in the original, in the orphanage, she's like in the office with all the doctors, and she's having a really good back and forth with the doctor, and the doctor's trying to get her to find out what's going on with Lucy. Like, what has she told you? All this kind of stuff. And we show early on that Anna's trying to protect Lucy by any means necessary, and that she really has her back across the board. In the American version, there's no doctor scene, and we really just see two girls
Just a montage.
just a montage of them hanging out, and they're on like a carousel.
Yeah.
And they're just looking up at the sky. And honestly, like Lucy doesn't even look like disturbed. They're both like just like leaning their heads against each other and like talking about stuff.
And that's the thing too, is like real quick, just to build on what you're saying, they say they want to in the reboot focus on that relationship. The relationship in the original is far more dynamic because you have two things. You have the mother-daughter relationship where Anna is like acting like a mother and taking care of Lucy when she's younger and even when she's an adult. And then you have the romantic relationship, which we didn't really touch on, but there is like romantic undertones in the original French version. In this one, they're just BFFs.
Yeah.
And there's trauma, I'm doing air quotes, that's been like occurring in their lives, but it doesn't seem to really have an impact on them. It just seems to be, that's the thing, is like when a trauma doesn't leave a greater impact, it's more just like an inconvenience.
Yeah.
So these girls have really just been inconvenienced.
Yeah.
And
well, it also has to do with like relationships across the board with unhealthy relationships.
Sure.
Like all Lucy knows her whole life is unhealthy relationships by being tortured by adults that could potentially be her parents as far as like age goes. And then even Anna's relationship with Lucy, like that's not a healthy relationship either, because like you said, she's just kind of like taking care of her and she's nurturing her, and then on top of that she starts to like have little romantic undertones. So
and she's like essentially enabling murder.
Yeah, and even when she tries to kiss Lucy, like Lucy doesn't like that. So there's some kind of theme in there with just like bad relationships. Whereas in the reboot, yeah, they're just BFFs. There's no undertones, but I also don't understand why they're BFFs. Like I can understand why there's a relationship in the original because it's kind of people behaving at their worst, right? And you're often like maybe more attracted to like a toxic kind of environment or situation, whereas in the remake it's like, why are they even friends? And like a perfect example of this is in the original, once after Lucy blows away the family, and then Anna comes over and Lucy's like telling her like, I found them, I did it, I killed them all, and like they're all here, and Anna doesn't really believe her. When we meet Anna, she's like waiting for her to call her, and she's like very like her whole life surrounds like her whole life is about Lucy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when we have that back and forth of like, but how do you know? And she's like, I know, look, it's in like the newspaper and blah 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 blah. Like we're seeing real-time examples of how they uh kind of negotiate with each other,
What the relationship
what the
is, yeah.
relationship is, but also why they continue on, right, in real time. Whereas in the remake, when Anna comes over after Lucy shoots the family, it's just very like bullshit quick dialogue of like, how do you know it's them? It's like, I told you, I know it's them. Like I can look it in his eyes, I smell them, and it's
Yeah,
just
they don't even have the
very.
newspaper, do they? They just wrote that out.
They wrote out the newspaper, but they use that scene as more of an exposition dump in the reboot, whereas in the original, it's more of a character kind of moment for both of them.
Yeah. Who when's the first time we see Anna in the reboot? Because like in when we see Anna in the original, she's like at the car at the phone booth, like waiting for the call.
Yeah.
Where's Anna in the reboot?
Anna's just sleeping.
Oh, she's just asleep? I
She's
completely
sleeping in
forgot.
her bed, so that's another perfect example of Anna in the original, like being so invested and active in Lucy's well-being, whereas in Anna in the reboot is sleeping
during the day,
sleeping in her high school bedroom, and she gets a ring 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 ring, hello, like wait, what?
I don't remember this scene at all. I've seen the movie twice.
It's almost like on the day she was actually sleeping, and
Yeah,
they're just like, let's just film and wake her up, like we'll call her and stuff.
It's realism.
Yeah. So it's just very lazy. So a lot of those scenes, just like I said, end up being kind of exposition dumps just to catch you up on the threat of what happened to Lucy versus the physical examples of what happened to Lucy that we get to see.
So we're already a third of the way through this movie, and we both know at this point when we're like watching it that the movie has failed in its purpose, because the whole purpose was to develop the two characters' relationship, Anna and Lucy, and we already care less than we did in the original.
And then after that, then we get in the reboot the monster now that starts to pop out, because after Anna comes over and then she initially starts to like try to help, Lucy starts seeing her monster as well. And then the new monster is just like
it looks okay. It looks too like Babadooky.
Yeah.
Dookie.
Yeah, it looks a lot more kind of like computer generated for sure. Also.
Yeah. And just like
and to be honest, that monster never really comes back into play.
Yeah, it's used a lot less because it was probably expensive.
Yeah, and also like when you don't kill Lucy in Act 2 and then she just goes back to being tortured again, it's like, well, then the monster becomes irrelevant, because we never establish why Lucy sees that monster in the reboot.
Because there's no person that she sees when she leaves, right?
Exactly. And also like
there's just pieces missing.
Yeah.
Which is like very like, you think it'd be more fun to talk about like an actual like functionally incompetent reboot, but this is just like kind of boringly incompetent. There's pieces just that were clearly served a purpose in the original are just missing, so that there's not huge, but there are gaping plot holes. And then, like I said, like the character relationship, the one thing that they were going to focus on and like they were going to tweak a little bit, got changed way too much and became way flatter at the same time.
Well, because I think it's in an orthodox way of telling a story, because the movie's called Martyrs, but I would argue
no one gets martyred.
Well, but I would argue that in the original, the whole first kind of 2 acts aren't even about what Martyrs is. It's about like dealing with post-trauma.
Yeah, it's the characters.
And it's about relationships. Whereas in
this rushes to get to the martyr thing.
Yeah, in the reboot, they kind of blow past all the character and the relationship stuff, and they try to get more heavy into like what is going on with these cultists.
Yeah.
Right?
But that's like that's the stuff that we don't care is more boring, because we're already invested in the characters. When like in the original, when Mademoiselle comes and sits down and just does the exposition dump to Anna, like that's fine because we care about the character now, and like we've seen Lucy go through trauma, and now we've seen Anna go through trauma through losing Lucy, so now we're invested. Like in this one, it succumbs to that flaw of like pointless exposition because we're not invested in the characters. And so when old lady, I don't even know if she's Mademoiselle, but when Mademoiselle in the reboot comes down and explains everything, it's simultaneously too fast and too boring.
Well, also in that original, when Mademoiselle comes down, that is the catalyst that's going to like carry us into what the back half of this movie is going to be, which is going to be like just the torture. But we don't even know necessarily. I mean, she explains the eye stuff to her and she explains what Martyrs is, but they still leave it kind of ambiguous of like, well, what are they doing now to Anna? Are they just going to continue? They're just going to try to make her a martyr, but they don't even really do that until they, spoiler alert, they skin her.
Well, they have to build up to that.
They build up to that. Whereas in the reboot, it's almost like they don't trust their method of what they're doing in this cult, so that way they have to bring in a religious angle. So they introduce it earlier. They introduce the religion a lot earlier, and then they even have she explains it to Anna in the reboot, but then she does it to Lucy. Whereas in the original, she explains it to Anna because she's gonna do it to Anna.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying it's like a catalyst.
There's too many characters.
In the reboot, it's just a plot device. So.
And you brought up an interesting thing real quick, where it's what was kind of interesting about the original is that there's two things. You have the idea of the afterlife and the idea of the martyr, but there's no religious angle.
Yes.
At all. It's all approached in like a spiritual or like science way.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have trauma and torture, but you're explicitly stating that you're staying away from sex and like sexual trauma and torture.
If anything, they're talking about the power of the mind and like the body.
Exactly.
Whereas in the reboot is just it's religion.
It's religion.
And it's like so boring. And they put her on a cross and they make her look like Jesus. And it's really funny that they never even they referenced Jesus obviously, but they never use like the pictures of Jesus being crucified with his eyes looking up at the sky.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're gonna do a religious thing, like that's all you needed. You didn't need to do these pictures, because the pictures serve the purpose in the original because they're not using religious
exactly
tone. Whereas they could have just showed her like any picture of Jesus when he's getting crucified.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that would have been like a direct connection that anyone in America would have gotten.
Yeah. So it's very weird, and that's why we keep going back to like, well, what was the point of this reboot? What story were they trying to tell? Because they're definitely trying to do a Final Girls thing where like Anna in the remake, she escapes and then she gets a gun and then she raids her way through the building and she's going to save a little girl, and she successfully does save a little girl. But then she's going to go back in and, save Lucy, and she's just like taking out guys along the way. And like, to me, that feels more like an American kind of horror movie.
It just doesn't seem like a horror movie. It just seems like shit, we need a third act. What do we do? Well, she's got to get rescued because we can't have, we can't make the audience sad.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, she'll go in guns blazing.
And they could have did something where
done anything else.
In the American remake, like if you're going to end your movie with Anna like going into hell to save Lucy, when they're kids, like show us an example of her like going in to save Lucy, because the original does a good job of showing Anna being there for Lucy, and then it's kind of justified why she would then come over to the house and try to help her and like, clean up her mess. Whereas in the remake, those kid scenes are just them being BFFs. So when she's storming the castle per se in the third act in the remake, it's just to save her friend.
Yeah.
But it's not something that
it hasn't been foreshadowed
or shows that this is what she has to do. It's just kind of like, here's our teenage girl, she's our final girl, she's going to go in and try to kill the cultists and save her friend.
Yeah, it seemed like the movie was made with the exact same enthusiasm that you would just like made that statement with.
Exactly. And as far as like Rotten Tomato scores go, obviously the original is going to be better. It's got a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is still pretty lower. Probably just because I would say that the movie is a little too long, the original.
It feels long. It's actually not. It's pretty short.
It feels long then.
It does.
Because of all the torture.
That's intentional. Yeah.
But I mean, from a filmmaking standpoint, it is very well executed, and the effects are very impressive, and the acting is very impressive. But in this reboot, the effects are bad, the acting's bad. It's got a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. Which is honestly like understandable, and maybe we should take this moment to say, is there anything about the reboot that is good?
No. It was interesting, like real quick, talking last week about how just incompetent the original When a Stranger Calls is.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so weird like seeing another incompetent movie like so quickly back to back, because there are bad movies, like there are plenty of bad movies, but like it's only like once in like a blue moon, I feel like, that you get an actually like incompetent movie where there's just like everything falls apart under any amount of scrutiny. And
well, it's because if you remove that trauma theme from this story, you don't have a story.
Yeah, and
to be
that's what they
honest.
do by minimizing the
Because
torture element.
because the story is so jolted and it's told in such a unconventional way
Yeah.
that if you're not leaning on some kind of theme to get you through it, so that way you're just kind of experiencing things and feeling it, you're just dealing with a really poorly written script.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's an unconventional and boring story.
Yeah.
What makes that story interesting is the context of the trauma.
Yeah.
Which you get with the original because it is so disgusting.
Yeah. And you know, these actors that are playing Lucy and Anna, like I don't have anything against these actresses. I mean, you know, you asked
in
me,
the reboot or the
in the reboot.
In the reboot,
And,
yeah.
you know, you asked me like, oh, would you want to make a movie like this, this reboot? And I was like, absolutely. I'm sure everybody was just so happy to like have a job.
Yeah.
And like
to be working.
Yeah, and be working. And you know, they do try. And at the end of the day, you can't really blame the actors because it does lie on the directors. And there's 2 of these directors, by the way. And there still are some shots that look good. They're not like, you know, it's not a poorly directed movie. I would just say it's a pretty weak directed movie.
I think it's kind of worse than you're giving it credit for.
I don't, I mean, like, let's say this, it's like competent in the sense of like being a movie, but it's, the storytelling's not good. And the shots that they do for the most part are pretty basic. I do remember there being a couple shots that were like, that's okay. That's a pretty good shot. And like I said, you can't blame the actresses for their performance because that's, you know, the directors have to direct them a certain way. So I'm just trying not to like, you know, on everybody.
I'm just imagining like anyone on the crew that day having like watched the original just out of interest and this like being there working on this one and being like, what are we doing?
I don't think anybody watched the original.
That's what like that's why I think it would be so funny if just like one like grip or someone did, and just for like context, and they're just like, is this the same movie?
Yeah. Well, even just look at like the torture. Like it was really funny because the way they torture Anna in the reboot is they do electroshock therapy.
Yeah, because it's easy to shoot around. You don't have to, there's no effects. There's no usually. All right, and shock.
Which is funny because like when we just watched the Suicide Squad James Gunn film, that's how they kind of torture Harley Quinn.
But that's like,
and it fits in a movie like that because that movie's so like silly and ridiculous. Whereas I just find electroshock torture silly and ridiculous.
It's because it's like absurd. Not absurd.
And it's not really.
Like,
it doesn't fit in breaking somebody's will.
You
know what I mean? Like when the way that they torture Anna in the original is they feed her horrible food, they keep her chained up in a chair all day, and then a guy will come down and just punch her in the face. And like he'll give her the option like to run away, and if she tries to run away, he'll just punch her in the face. And it's like such everyday simple abuse that all of us would be terrified to experience. Whereas in the remake, they like chain her to a chair, like a bed like chair, and they put like the things on her temples, and then they shock her. And it's like, how is that breaking a will? That's just like hurting somebody.
Yeah.
And I understand that punching somebody in the face and torturing them in the original is still hurting somebody, but it's the way you hurt the person. Like that's like they're really breaking down her will to live. Whereas in the remake, they're just like,
and it's just like the way I look at it is the bruise makeup.
Yeah.
Like when she like at the end is so good. And then like what do you do with like electroshock? You get like little bruises on the temple. Well, it's like the act itself is traumatic, but like as something that's interesting to watch on screen, there's nothing because the actor is just convulsing, and then there's no need for special or practical effects.
And it's also like a way to elicit a seizure, not elicit like the breaking of somebody's hope and spirit.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, you do have the physical representation of doing that when you're just punching somebody in the face, but more so than that, they want her to be conscious of this pain. When you shock somebody, you're really just like you just be foaming at the mouth and just convulsing. And that's not really like a person experiencing something. That's just like deteriorating the brain.
Yeah.
And which is interesting because they want the brain to be...
Don't try to make logical sense out
no,
of it.
It's just so weird because like they're trying to make Martyrs, right? And the way they make Martyrs is they break down your will in a conscious level, so that way you experience so much pain that you almost have a euphoric experience. When you electroshock torture the person in the remake, you are altering the brain, so you're actually going against what you're trying to do with creating.
You're making it more difficult.
Exactly, you're making it
that's
harder.
The thing is, she wasn't the martyrs. She was just being tortured with electroshock.
Well, then it's just
Lucy
weird.
Was supposed to be the martyr, and I don't even know how she was. She was getting tortured.
They were insinuating that she was getting punched too and stuff, but she had far less like. And I think they were also insinuating they were like cutting into her back and things like that too. But even
that's so because instead of skinning someone completely like they do in the original, they just take a chunk off her back.
Take a chunk off her back.
It's so like I don't know. It's almost like they wanted the audience to be aware of like the minimal effort they were giving. Because it's like, why wouldn't you do something else? Why would you literally do a half measure of the original? Why wouldn't you either do the whole thing or do something else? Why, like, there's no reason to do a half measure.
And it comes down to like, what did they want the audience to experience in this remake? Because they're playing the hits from the original in the remake, but you have to assume that people that are watching this remake haven't seen the original. So what's the point of doing those beats, like you said, if you're not fulfilling them? And then it comes down to, well, what's the point that you're trying to make about torture and about like experiencing the afterlife and stuff like that? Because if all it takes is just like a couple slices, some punches, and then just ripping off one part of your back, it's like, okay. So I don't know. It's just it's very weird that this movie is made at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the biggest, because like if you want to just compare it real quick to Stranger, like there's a reason that got remade, and it's because the concept itself is so strong. The concept itself is so European, and so it's like, well, why are they remaking it?
Yeah.
And when you're actually done watching it, you're just left with more questions than answers. We like, that it kind of sucks because that's the whole reason we do the podcast, is to answer like, why is this reboot being made almost?
Yeah.
And like, we can't answer this one.
Well, they probably made it because it was maybe just like critically respected and it was popular.
It wasn't even that critically respected though.
So then maybe it just comes down to rights. It comes down to a name.
They probably got the rights for cheap, and they're just like, okay, the audience is big enough that it's worth the small amount that we're paying for the rights.
And it's got a good title.
Sure.
Maybe. Because it's like one word that everybody knows. But so if we have nothing else we really want to talk about this, we can go ahead and get into the voting that will lead to a final decision of Martyrs. So as always on this podcast, we ask 3 questions, and the first question is, does it work as a reboot?
Nope. It is a lesser than example of the original. The tone is missing. The connection with the audience is missing. The most damning thing is that the character relationship, which is the thing that they were trying to focus on, is even more lacking in their attempt than it was in the original.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much else that needs to be said about it, but what do you have to say?
No, I don't think it works as a reboot either. And honestly, there's not really a lot I want to say about this movie because it's just so dumb.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a dumb movie, and it's like this makes When a Stranger Calls reboot look like a top shelf movie.
Yeah,
compared to this.
I liked the When a Stranger Calls reboot better than this reboot.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, I don't really have anything to say about this movie. I really didn't even want to watch this movie, but reboot review. We tried out some different stuff.
We got our fix.
So that sounds like it's going to get 2 X's pretty quick. So the next question is going to be, is it enjoyable / entertaining in its genre? Once again, this is Halloween time. We are doing horror movies. There's certain things we would like to happen with our horror movies, but they don't necessarily have to do those things for it to be enjoyable / entertaining. And I'll start off this one. I'll make it quick. No, it is not enjoyable / entertaining. This is not a good movie. And I think this is going to be one of those movies that just like a lot of people will never see. And if you find it, you'll find it like the Walmart $5 section at the bottom of the bin. And I've even tried to convince you to take our DVD of this and we should go to Walmart and just drop it in the bottom of the bin. And I would bet a Walmart employee would be like, hey, what are you doing? Get that out of the bin. I don't want that.
They wouldn't let us.
They wouldn't let us drop it off. So yeah, it's not enjoyable / entertaining. There's really not even a point to it. And I don't even think it's like funny, like in a bad way.
No.
Like it does. Like I wasn't laughing. I was just kind of like, ugh.
It's mildly interesting seeing the decisions that they made from like a filmmaking standpoint. But no, I'm gonna agree with you. It's an X from me. The only thing that I can enjoy from the reboot is the fact that maybe it would get some more audience traction for the original, but then this does such a shitty job of representing the original that I think it might do more harm than good.
Yeah.
So no, like I said, whereas the original at least had like the good monster design and the good competent filmmaking behind the horror movie concept, this is no fun to watch at Halloween time.
No.
Everything's missing.
It is no fun to watch at Halloween time, and we watched it around Halloween time.
Well, yeah, the original is fun to watch at Halloween time.
I don't know.
The reboot's not. The reboot's...
All right, so that's going to be an obvious 2 X's again. So the final question, does it stand on its own? I'm just gonna make this quick. It does not stand on its own for everything. This is getting X's. This is just getting X's
across the board.
And I have nothing else I want to say about this movie. So you can go ahead and vote also, but
I'm gonna vote X. I'm not gonna even try to pretend that I'm gonna think about it.
Yeah.
I have nothing else to say about the reboot. We could keep talking about the original if you want to, though.
No, so if you're doing that math at home, that's going to be 6 X's, 0 checks. So it's going to get 1 giant X for not worth bringing back. And yeah, it's not a good reboot. Probably just watch the original if you want to experience that stuff. But it is very disturbing, and you don't eat food when you're watching it. All right, everyone, so that's going to be a wrap on Martyrs 2008 and 2015. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you like this episode, you can check out our other episodes of Reboot Review and the Back Again podcast on all streaming platforms, wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can also watch these episodes with video, except for this one, obviously, on YouTube. And tell us what you think. Have you seen Martyrs? Do you need to see a therapist? Who knows? But we will be back next week with another reboot review of a classic horror film for the season. But until then, I guess just keep enjoying the month of October. And you got anything else to add, Drew?
In my opinion, that sucked.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time.